The cell door hissed shut with a finality that echoed through the detention block. Elias Ward stood motionless in the center of the cramped space, his breathing steady, his posture relaxed. Around him, the other prisoners in adjacent cells had fallen silent, a rare occurrence in the raucous underbelly of the Korthax prison station. They were waiting. In the shadows at the far end of the cell, something shifted. A low rumble emanated from the darkness, vibrating through the metal floor. Two amber eyes, each the size of a human fist, reflected the dim overhead lights. The creature emerged slowly, deliberately, its massive form uncoiling like a spring of coiled death. Rakkar. The name was whispered in terror throughout the station. A Vexthar apex predator from the death world of Cragmole, Rakkar stood nearly 9 feet tall when fully upright. His body was covered in chitinous armor plates that gleamed like polished obsidian, punctuated by ridges of bone that ran along his spine. 4 arms, each ending in claws that could shred steel, flexed as he assessed his new cellmate. His elongated skull housed rows of serrated teeth, visible even when his mouth was closed. The guards had thrown Elias in here as punishment, or perhaps entertainment. Either way, they expected screaming within minutes, silence within the hour. Elias turned to face the predator, his blue eyes meeting those burning amber orbs without flinching. He didn't back away. He didn't raise his hands defensively. He simply stood there, observing. Rakkar's head tilted, confusion rippling through his predatory instincts. Prey ran, prey screamed, prey begged. This human did none of those things. The Vexthar took a thunderous step forward, claws scraping against the floor with a sound like swords being drawn. Still, Elias didn't move. He breathed slowly, evenly, his heartbeat maintaining its calm rhythm. Something Rakkar could sense with his predatory senses. No fear pheromones. No adrenaline spike, just calm. Rakkar circled him, massive frame moving with surprising grace. He could crush this fragile creature with a single swipe. He had killed dozens before, warriors, criminals, even other predators. But something stayed his claws. "You're not going to hurt me," Elias said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. The words weren't a plea or a challenge. They were a simple statement of fact, delivered with such quiet certainty that Rakkar paused mid-step. Elias slowly lowered himself to the floor, sitting cross-legged with his back against the wall. He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again, looking directly at the predator. "You've been alone here for a long time, haven't you? They use you to execute prisoners, to terrify them." Rakkar's growl deepened, but it lacked aggression. It sounded almost confused. "I've studied your species," Elias continued, his tone conversational, as if discussing the weather rather than facing imminent death. "Vexithar are pack hunters in the wild. Social creatures. Isolating you like this, making you kill constantly, it goes against your nature, doesn't it?" The predator's forearms lowered slightly. His head dipped, and for the first time since Elias had entered the cell, Rakkar's posture shifted from aggressive to uncertain. Elias reached into his prison uniform pocket, a movement that should have triggered an attack, and slowly withdrew a small piece of protein ration from his last meal. He'd saved it, though he hadn't known why at the time. Perhaps some instinct had guided him. He held it out on his open palm, not extending his arm, just offering. "I'm not your enemy," Elias said quietly, "and you're not mine." The cell fell absolutely silent. Even the usual background hum of the station seemed to fade away. Rakkar stared at the offered food, then at the human's face, then back at the food. Slowly, with movements far more delicate than seemed possible for such a massive creature, Rakkar reached out with one clawed hand. He plucked the protein ration from Elias's palm with surprising gentleness, brought it to his maw, and consumed it. Then something remarkable happened. Rakkar lowered himself to the floor, his massive body settling into a position that reminded Elias of a protective crouch. The predator positioned himself between Elias and the cell door, amber eyes fixed on the entrance, watching. Elias smiled faintly. "Thank you," he whispered. Hours passed. The guards didn't check the cell. They never did until morning, preferring not to witness the aftermath of their cruel entertainment. Throughout the night, Rakkar maintained his vigil. When Elias finally allowed himself to sleep, exhaustion overcoming caution, the Vexithar remained motionless, a sentinel carved from living shadow. At some point during the night, Rakkar shifted closer, One massive arm curled around Elias's sleeping form, not threatening but protective, the same way a Vexthar would guard its young. Morning came with the harsh clang of the cell door opening. 2 guards entered, stun batons ready, expecting to find scattered remains and a satiated predator. Instead, they froze. Rakkar stood at full height, all 4 arms spread wide, creating a living barrier between the guards and Elias, who was just waking up behind him. The predator's growl shook the walls, a sound of pure, undiluted warning. His stance was unmistakable. "Come closer and die." "What the—" One guard stammered, backing away. Elias rose slowly, placing a hand on Rakkar's chitinous arm. "Easy," he said softly. The predator's growl subsided into a low rumble, but he didn't move from his protective position. The guards stared in disbelief. In 3 years of using Rakkar as an executioner, nothing like this had ever happened. "He won't hurt me," Elias said calmly, addressing the guards. "But I suggest you don't try to separate us." The lead guard's communicator crackled. The warden's voice came through, having watched the entire encounter on surveillance. "Stand down. Leave them." As the guards retreated and the cell door sealed once more, Elias looked up at his unlikely protector. Rakkar gazed down at him, and in those amber eyes, the human saw something he never expected to find in an apex predator. Recognition, respect, trust. "We're going to be all right," Elias said, and he believed it. Rakkar's rumble softened into something that almost sounded like a purr. The predator settled back down beside him, and Elias realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't violence or technology, it was understanding, empathy, the ability to see the person, the being, behind the monster. And sometimes, that was all it took to turn a predator into a guardian.